The Patient Path. Lessons in Patience. The Journey to True Mastery. In a world obsessed with instant gratification, viral success, and overnight transformations, there exists a quiet rebellion, a return to the ancient wisdom that true mastery is not a destination you arrive at, but a path you walk with patience, persistence, and profound respect for the process itself. This is the story of how the slowest runners often win the longest races, how the quietest students become the wisest teachers, and how patience, that seemingly passive virtue, becomes the most active force in creating extraordinary lives. Introduction: The Paradox of Patience. Welcome to a journey that will challenge everything you think you know about success, achievement, and personal growth. I'm here to share with you a radical idea that in our hyper-connected, instant, everything world, patience has become not just a valuable skill, but a competitive advantage that can transform every aspect of your life. The word patience often conjures images of waiting, passive, resigned, perhaps even weak. But true patience is not passive waiting. It's active engagement with the present moment while maintaining unwavering faith in the process of growth. It's the difference between a seed anxiously trying to become a tree overnight and a seed that understands that every day of growth, however imperceptible, is bringing it closer to its magnificent potential. Over the next hour, we'll explore how patience becomes the foundation for true mastery in any field, relationship, or personal endeavor. We'll discover why the most successful people in history weren't necessarily the most talented, but often the most patient. And most importantly, we'll learn practical strategies to cultivate this transformative quality in our own lives. Chapter 1: The Mythology of Overnight Success. Let me tell you about James Dyson, the inventor of the revolutionary bagless vacuum cleaner. When people see his successor multi-billion-dollar company, innovative products in millions of homes worldwide, they might assume he had a sudden breakthrough, a moment of genius that changed everything overnight. The reality tells a different story. Dyson created 126 prototypes before achieving the design that would make him famous. That's not a tip of 126 attempts. Each failure taught him something new, refined his understanding, and brought him one step closer to his vision. But here's what's fascinating. Dyson didn't see those 125 failures as setbacks. He saw them as necessary steps in his education. He understood what we've forgotten in our instant gratification culture, that mastery is not an event, it's a process. Consider the Japanese concept of shokunin, the craftsman's spirit. A shokunin spends decades perfecting their craft, whether it's making sushi, forging swords, or building furniture. They understand that true mastery requires what the Japanese call tanren, patient, repetitive practice that gradually builds skill and understanding. Jiro Ono, the legendary sushi master featured in the documentary Jiro Dreams of Sushi, began his apprenticeship at age 9. He didn't serve his first piece of sushi to a customer until he was in his 20s. Today, at over 90 years old, he still considers himself a student, still believes there's more to learn about rice, fish, and the art of sushi. This is the first lesson in patience, understanding that what appears to be overnight success is usually the result of years, sometimes decades, of patient preparation. The world sees the harvest, but rarely witnesses the seasons of planting, watering, and tending that made it possible. The iceberg principle. Success is like an iceberg. What's visible above the water, the recognition, the achievement, the reward, represents perhaps 10% of the total effort. The remaining 90% lies beneath the surface. The daily practice, the mundane repetition, the small improvements, the failures transformed into learning, the patience to trust the process, even when progress seems invisible. Social media has distorted our perception of this reality. We see highlight reels and assume they represent the whole story. We see someone's published novel and forget about the years of rejected manuscripts. We see an athlete's victory and miss the decades of training. the early mornings, the countless hours of practice when no one was watching. This distortion creates what psychologists call the comparison trap. We compare our behind-the-scenes struggles with everyone else's highlight reels, leaving us feeling inadequate and impatient with our own progress. The compound effect of patient practice. Warren Buffett, one of the world's most successful investors, attributes his wealth not to any single brilliant investment, but to the compound effect of consistent, patient investing over decades. He calls it the eighth wonder of the world. Compound interest, not just in finance, but in skill, development, relationships, and personal growth. When you practice patience in your pursuit of mastery, you're not just waiting for results, you're allowing the compound effect to work in your favor. Each day of patient practice builds upon the previous day. Each small improvement becomes the foundation for the next improvement. Over time, these seemingly insignificant daily efforts create extraordinary results. Think of learning a musical instrument. The difference between a beginner and an intermediate player might represent 6 months of daily practice. But the difference between an intermediate player and a master might represent 20 years of patient refinement. The magic happens not in the dramatic leaps, but in the consistent, patient accumulation of skill, understanding, and artistry. Chapter 2. The Science of Patience and Mastery. Neuroscience has revealed fascinating insights about how patience literally rewires our brains for success. When we practice patience, we strengthen the prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain responsible for executive function, decision-making, and long-term planning. Simultaneously, we reduce the reactivity of the amygdala, the brain's alarm system that triggers fight or flight responses. This neurological transformation has profound implications for mastery. A patient mind can see patterns that an impatient mind misses. It can persist through difficulties that would derail someone seeking instant results. It can make better decisions because it's not driven by the urgent need for immediate gratification. Dr. Walter Mischel's famous Stanford marshmallow experiment demonstrated this principle beautifully. Children who could delay gratification, who could wait for a second marshmallow instead of eating the first one, immediately showed better academic performance, healthier BMIs, and lower rates of substance abuse decades later. The ability to be patient with themselves in one small area predicted success across multiple life domains. The deliberate practice revolution. Anders Ericsson's research on deliberate practice revolutionized our understanding of expertise. His studies revealed that what separates masters from amateurs isn't just the amount of practice, but the quality and patience of that practice. Deliberate practice is characterized by several key elements, all of which require patience. Focus on weaknesses rather than strengths. Most people naturally gravitate toward what they're already good at because it feels good. Masters have the patience to spend time on their weaknesses, even though it's uncomfortable and progress feels slow. Immediate feedback and correction. Masters seek out criticism and correction, then have the patience to implement changes gradually. They understand that feedback often feels negative in the moment but is invaluable for long-term growth. Progressive difficulty. Rather than staying in their comfort zone, masters continuously challenge themselves with slightly more difficult tasks. This requires patience because it means accepting temporary decreases in performance as they stretch their abilities. Mental effort and concentration. Deliberate practice is mentally demanding. It requires the patience to maintain focus even when the mind wants to wander or take shortcuts. The plateau effect and patient persistence. Every journey toward mastery involves plateaus, periods where progress seems to stall despite continued effort. These plateaus are not signs of failure, they're natural parts of the learning process. But they're also where most people quit. The Japanese have a beautiful concept called Kaizen, continuous improvement, through small incremental changes. Kaizen recognizes that progress isn't always linear. Sometimes you move forward rapidly, sometimes you seem to stand still, and sometimes you even seem to move backward. But if you maintain patience and consistency, the overall trajectory is always upward. Chess grandmaster Josh Waitzkin describes plateaus as the springboard for leaps. He explains that during apparent periods of stagnation, the mind is actually consolidating learning, making connections, and preparing for the next breakthrough. But this process requires patience, the willingness to trust that growth is happening even when it's not immediately visible. Chapter 3. Ancient Wisdom for Modern Impatience. Long before neuroscience validated the power of patience, ancient wisdom traditions understood its transformative potential. These teachings offer us practical frameworks for cultivating patience in our modern lives. The Buddhist path of mindful patience. Buddhism identifies patience as one of the 6 paramitas, or perfections, essential for spiritual development. But Buddhist patience, called kshanti, is not passive endurance. It's an active practice of non-resistance to the present moment, even when that moment contains difficulty, discomfort, or delay. The Buddhist approach to patience involves 3 types. Patience with suffering, the ability to remain calm and centered when facing difficulties, setbacks, or pain. This doesn't mean being passive or accepting harmful situations, but rather responding to challenges from a place of wisdom rather than reactivity. Patience with others, understanding that everyone is on their own journey of growth and learning. This patience allows us to respond to others' mistakes, ignorance, or hostility with compassion rather than anger. Patience with the truth, the willingness to sit with uncertainty and ambiguity while gradually developing understanding. This is particularly relevant for mastery, as deep learning often requires us to be comfortable with not knowing before we truly know. The Stoic discipline of patience. The ancient Stoics developed practical exercises for cultivating patience. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome and devoted Stoic practitioner, wrote in his Meditations, "Confine yourself to the present advice that's remarkably relevant for our impatient age." Stoic patience involves several practices. The discipline of desire, learning to want what happens rather than demanding that what we want should happen. This doesn't mean becoming passive, but rather accepting the timing and process of life while continuing to work toward our goals. The premeditation of adversity, regularly imagining setbacks, delays, and difficulties so that when they occur, we're mentally prepared to respond with patience rather than frustration. The view from above, taking a broader perspective on our challenges and goals, seeing our current struggles in the context of our entire life, our place in history, and the vast scale of existence. Taoist Wu Wei and effortless action. Taoism offers the concept of Wu Wei, often translated as non-action, but better understood as effortless action. Wu Wei is the art of knowing when to act and when to wait, when to push and when to allow, when to effort and when to trust the natural flow of events. This doesn't mean being lazy or passive. A river demonstrates Wu Wei perfectly. It's constantly moving toward its destination, but it doesn't fight against the landscape. Instead, it flows around obstacles, gradually wearing them down, always finding the path of least resistance while never losing sight of its ultimate direction. In terms of mastery, Wu Wei teaches us to work with our natural rhythms and capacities rather than against them. Some days we'll feel energetic and capable of intense practice. Other days we might need gentler engagement with our craft. Wu Wei patience means accepting these natural fluctuations while maintaining consistent engagement with our path. Chapter 4. The Impatience Epidemic. We live in an age of unprecedented convenience and speed. We can order products and have them delivered within hours. We can access virtually any information instantly. We can communicate with anyone, anywhere in the world, immediately. These advances have brought tremendous benefits, but they've also created what we might call an impatience epidemic. The dopamine trap. Our brains are wired to seek rewards, and the modern world provides them constantly. Every notification, every like, every instant gratification triggers a small release of dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and motivation. Over time, we become accustomed to this constant stimulation, making it increasingly difficult to engage in activities that require patience and delayed gratification. This creates a vicious cycle. The more we seek instant rewards, the less patience we have for activities that provide deeper, more lasting satisfaction. The less we practice patience, the weaker our patience muscles become. Soon, we find ourselves unable to read a book for more than a few pages, unable to have a conversation without checking our phones, unable to pursue long-term goals without constant encouragement and immediate results. The multitasking myth. Modern culture celebrates multitasking as efficiency, but research consistently shows that what we call multitasking is actually rapid task switching. Each switch requires mental energy and time to refocus, making us less efficient and more prone to errors. More importantly, for our purposes, multitasking is fundamentally incompatible with the deep, patient focus required for mastery. When we're constantly switching between tasks, we never develop the ability to sustain attention on one thing long enough for deep learning to occur. The Japanese concept of ikigai, life's purpose, suggests that meaning comes not from doing many things adequately, but from doing one thing with complete dedication and love. This requires patience, the patience to say no to distractions, to resist the temptation to constantly switch focus, to trust that deep engagement with one pursuit will ultimately be more rewarding than shallow engagement with many. Social media and the comparison trap. Social media platforms are designed to capture and hold our attention through what psychologists call variable ratio reinforcement, the same mechanism that makes gambling addictive. We never know when we'll receive a rewarding response to our posts, so we keep checking compulsively. But beyond the addictive mechanics, social media creates unrealistic expectations about the pace of progress and success. We see curated highlights from hundreds or thousands of people, creating the illusion that everyone else is progressing faster than we are. This perception undermines our patience with our own journey and can lead us to abandon worthy pursuits because our progress doesn't match the artificial timelines we see online. Chapter 5. The Patience Paradox. Here's where patience becomes paradoxical. The more urgently we want results, the more important it becomes to slow down. The more impatient we feel, the more we need to cultivate patience. The more we want to force progress, the more we need to trust the process. The Zen of not seeking. Zen Buddhism has a beautiful teaching about not seeking. The idea is that when we grasp too tightly for something, whether it's enlightenment, success, or mastery, we actually push it away. Our very desire for the outcome creates tension that interferes with the natural process of growth. This doesn't mean we stop having goals or working toward them. Instead, it means we hold our goals lightly, like a bird in our open palm. We provide the conditions for growth, consistent practice, patient persistence, openness to learning, while allowing the outcomes to unfold naturally. Professional athletes often describe this state as being in the zone moments when they perform at their highest level, not by trying harder, but by trusting their training and letting their abilities flow naturally. This flow state requires patience with the process and detachment from the immediate results. The gardener's mindset. Master gardeners understand patience intuitively. They know that once they've planted a seed, watered it, and provided proper conditions, their job is not to dig it up every day to check its progress. Their job is to maintain the conditions for growth and trust that nature will do its work. This gardener's mindset is essential for personal mastery. We plant seeds through our daily practice. We water them with consistent effort. We provide proper conditions through good habits, learning environments, and supportive relationships. But we cannot force the growth, and constantly checking for progress can actually interfere with the natural process of development. Patience as power. In our culture, patience is often seen as weakness, passive acceptance of undesirable circumstances. But true patience is actually a form of power. It's the power to choose our response rather than react automatically. It's the power to stay focused on long-term goals despite short-term setbacks. It's the power to maintain inner peace regardless of external circumstances. This power becomes particularly evident in challenging situations. While others are reactive, stressed, and making poor decisions under pressure, the patient person remains calm, clear-headed, and capable of wise action. They understand that most problems solve themselves with time, that most crises are temporary, and that rushing towards solutions often creates more problems than it solves. Chapter 6. Practical Patience, Tools and Techniques. Understanding the importance of patience is one thing, developing it is another. Fortunately, patience is like a muscle. It can be strengthened through regular practice. Here are proven techniques for cultivating patience in daily life. The pause practice. The simplest yet most powerful patience practice is learning to pause. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space lies our freedom to choose our response. Most people live reactively, immediately responding to whatever stimulus they encounter. Patient people have learned to expand that space through the pause practice. Start with small irritations. When someone cuts you off in traffic, instead of immediately reacting with anger, take a conscious breath and pause. In that pause, you can choose your response. When your computer freezes, instead of immediately feeling frustrated, pause and notice your initial reaction without acting on it. Practice this pause in increasingly challenging situations. When someone criticizes your work, pause before defending yourself. When progress on your goals seems slow, pause before abandoning your efforts. When you feel the urge to check your phone during focused work, pause and choose whether to respond to that urge. The 10-10-10 rule. When facing a situation that tests your patience, ask yourself, how will I feel about this in 10 minutes? In 10 months? In 10 years? This simple exercise helps put temporary frustrations in perspective and reduces the emotional charge of immediate circumstances. Most things that feel urgent and important in the moment lose their power when viewed from a longer perspective. The criticism that feels devastating today will likely be forgotten in 10 months. The setback that seems insurmountable now might become a valuable learning experience when viewed from 10 years in the future. Mindful waiting. Instead of viewing waiting as dead time, transform it into patience practice. Whether you're waiting in line, stuck in traffic, or delayed at the airport, use these moments to practice present moment awareness. Focus on your breath, observe your surroundings without judgment, or practice gratitude for something in your life. Notice the urge to fill every moment with activity or distraction, and gently return your attention to the present moment. These small practices accumulate over time, building your capacity for patience in more challenging situations. The Progress Journal. Keep a journal dedicated to tracking progress over time. Record small improvements, learning moments, and incremental advances toward your goals. When impatience arises, review your journal to see the accumulation of growth that might not be visible day to day but becomes obvious over weeks and months. This practice is particularly powerful for long-term goals. Weight loss, skill development, relationship building, and creative projects all involve periods where daily progress seems negligible, but monthly or yearly progress is substantial. The journal helps you see the bigger picture when day-to-day reality feels frustrating. Patience with others. Developing patience with other people requires understanding that everyone is fighting battles we know nothing about. The rude cashier might be dealing with personal problems. The slow driver might be elderly or learning. The critical colleague might be under pressure from their supervisor. This doesn't mean accepting truly harmful behavior, but it means giving people the benefit of the doubt and responding to their actions with compassion rather than judgment. Practice seeing others as works in progress, just as you are. The ancient practice of sitting. Many wisdom traditions include practices of simply sitting quietly without activity or entertainment. In our hyperactive culture, this can feel like torture initially, but it's one of the most powerful ways to develop patience. Start with just 5 minutes of sitting quietly without any agenda. Don't try to meditate or achieve any particular state. Just sit and notice whatever arises: thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, impulses to move or do something. Notice the impatience that arises and practice being patient with the impatience itself. Gradually increase the time as your capacity grows. This practice builds what we might call patience endurance, the ability to remain calm and centered even when nothing interesting is happening. Chapter 7. The Patience Advantage in Different Life Areas. Patience provides advantages in virtually every area of life. Let's explore how cultivating patience can transform your relationships, career, health, and personal growth. Relationships and patience. Relationships are perhaps the area where patience has the most profound impact. Impatience in relationships leads to unrealistic expectations, constant criticism, and the attempt to change others rather than accepting them as they are. Patient love, by contrast, creates space for others to grow and change at their own pace. It means supporting someone's journey without trying to control the timeline or destination. It means having difficult conversations with kindness rather than urgency. It means staying committed to relationships, even during challenging periods. Consider the patience required for deep friendship. True friendship develops over years of shared experiences, gradual trust building, and mutual support through various life changes. Social media creates the illusion that we can build meaningful connections quickly, but lasting relationships require the patience to invest time and energy without immediate returns. In romantic relationships, patience allows couples to work through conflicts constructively rather than seeking quick fixes that don't address underlying issues. It means accepting your partner's growth timeline rather than demanding immediate change. It means investing in the relationship's long-term health rather than focusing only on immediate satisfaction. Parenting offers perhaps the ultimate patience training ground. Children develop at their own pace, and attempts to force their growth often backfire. Patient parents create environments where children feel safe to make mistakes, learn gradually, and develop confidence in their own abilities. Career mastery through patience. In professional life, patience provides numerous advantages that often go unrecognized in our results-oriented culture. Patient employees are better at learning new skills because they don't expect immediate mastery. They're better at building professional relationships because they invest in long-term connections rather than seeking immediate benefits. Patient professionals are also better at handling workplace stress and conflicts. They don't react immediately to criticism or setbacks, giving them time to respond thoughtfully and strategically. They're more likely to see workplace challenges as learning opportunities rather than threats. Career advancement often requires patience with timing and opportunities. The most successful professionals understand that building expertise, reputation, and relationships takes time. They're willing to take positions that might not provide immediate benefits but offer long-term growth potential. Entrepreneurship particularly rewards patience. Most successful businesses take years to become profitable, and most successful entrepreneurs have multiple failures before achieving success. The ability to persist through uncertainty, setbacks, and slow growth periods often determines who ultimately succeeds in business. Health and wellness patience. Perhaps nowhere is the modern impatience epidemic more evident than in health and fitness cultures. We're bombarded with promises of rapid transformation: lose 20 pounds in 30 days, get six-pack abs in 6 weeks, transform your body in 90 days. But sustainable health improvement requires patience, with gradual lifestyle changes. The most successful long-term weight loss comes from small, consistent changes in eating and exercise habits over months and years, not from dramatic short-term interventions. Mental health also benefits from patience. Healing from trauma, overcoming anxiety, or building emotional resilience takes time. Therapy, meditation, and other mental health practices require patience with the process of gradual improvement rather than expecting immediate relief. Sleep, nutrition, exercise, and stress management all improve through patient, consistent attention rather than dramatic interventions. The person who exercises moderately every day for a year will be healthier than someone who exercises intensively for a month then stops. creative patience. Creativity requires enormous patience because creative work often involves long periods of apparent non-productivity, followed by sudden breakthroughs. Writers know about writer's block. Painters know about periods when nothing seems to work. Musicians know about times when every song sounds terrible. Patient creators understand that these fallow periods are part of the creative process, not evidence of failure or lack of talent. They continue showing up to their creative practice even when inspiration seems absent, trusting that consistent engagement with their craft will eventually yield results. The creative process also requires patience with revision and refinement. First drafts are rarely masterpieces. First attempts at songs, paintings, or any creative work usually need significant improvement. Patient creators are willing to revise, edit, and refine their work until it meets their standards, even if this process takes much longer than initially expected. Chapter 8: When Patience Becomes Procrastination. As we develop patience, it's important to distinguish between productive patience and procrastination disguised as patience. True patience involves active engagement with the process, while procrastination involves avoiding the process altogether. The action-patience balance. Patience doesn't mean passivity. A patient person still takes consistent action toward their goals. They still make decisions and move forward. The difference is that they do so without the desperate urgency that leads to poor choices and burnout. Think of patience as being like a wise general planning a military campaign. The general carefully considers strategy, timing, and resources. They don't rush into battle unprepared, but they also don't wait indefinitely for perfect conditions. They balance careful preparation with decisive action. In personal development, this means taking consistent daily action while being patient with results. It means making decisions thoughtfully, but not endlessly deliberating. It means preparing thoroughly, but not using preparation as an excuse to avoid taking action. Recognizing productive versus unproductive waiting. Not all waiting is patient. Sometimes what we call patience is actually fear, laziness, or avoidance disguised as virtue. Here are ways to distinguish. Productive patience involves taking consistent action while waiting for results, learning and improving during waiting periods, clear criteria for when to continue and when to change course, active engagement with the process, not just the outcome, peace with uncertainty while maintaining forward momentum. Procrastination disguised as patience involves using patience as an excuse to avoid taking action, waiting for perfect conditions that never come, endless planning without implementation, avoiding discomfort rather than accepting it as part of growth, using patience as a reason to stay in situations that clearly aren't working. The pivot point. Part of wisdom is knowing when patience has served its purpose and action is needed. Sometimes what we think is patience is actually staying too long in situations that aren't serving us. The key is developing the ability to distinguish between temporary setbacks that require patient persistence and genuine dead ends that require change of direction. This discernment comes from honest self-reflection and often benefits from outside perspective. A mentor, coach, or trusted friend can sometimes see when our patience has become counterproductive avoidance. The general rule is that patience should feel peaceful, even when it's challenging. If your patience feels heavy, stuck, or fearful, it might be time to examine whether you're truly being patient or simply avoiding necessary action. Chapter 9: The Compound Effect of Patient Living. As we near the end of our journey together, let's explore how patience creates compound benefits that extend far beyond specific goals or achievements. Patient living transforms not just what we accomplish, but who we become in the process. The character dividend. Every time we choose patience over reactivity, we're making a deposit in our character account. Each moment of patient response to frustration builds our emotional resilience. Each choice to persist through difficulty rather than quit builds our perseverance. Each decision to trust the process rather than force outcomes builds our wisdom. These character developments create what we might call a character dividend, benefits that compound over time and apply to every area of life. The patience developed while learning a musical instrument serves you in your marriage. The persistence cultivated in athletic training helps you in your career. The emotional regulation practiced in meditation benefits all your relationships. This is why every patience practice, no matter how small, has value beyond its immediate context. When you choose to respond calmly to traffic delays, you're not just having a better commute, you're building the character strength that will serve you in much more significant challenges. The ripple effect. Patient people create calmer environments wherever they go. Their patience gives others permission to relax, to be imperfect, to grow at their own pace. This creates positive ripple effects in families, workplaces, and communities. Children who grow up with patient parents are more likely to be patient themselves. Employees who work for patient managers are more creative and less stressed. Friends and partners of patient people report feeling more accepted and supported. This ripple effect means that developing patience is not just a personal benefit, it's a gift to everyone in your life. Your patience creates space for others to be their best selves, which in turn creates more positive relationships and environments for everyone. The legacy of patience. Patient people leave different legacies than impatient people. They build things that last because they're willing to invest the time and attention required for quality. They develop deeper relationships because they give others the time and space needed for genuine connection. They create more meaningful work because they don't sacrifice quality for speed. Think about the people who have had the most positive impact on your life. Chances are, many of them demonstrated patience. Teachers who worked with you at your own pace, mentors who invested in your long-term development, friends who stayed loyal through difficult periods, family members who supported your growth without trying to rush it. This is the ultimate reward of patient living. Not just achieving your goals, but becoming the kind of person who positively impacts others through your presence, your choices, and your example. Chapter 10. Your Patient Path Forward. As we conclude this exploration of patience and mastery, the question becomes, how will you apply these insights in your own life? How will you begin or deepen your practice of patient living? Starting where you are. The beautiful thing about developing patience is that you can start wherever you are, with whatever challenges you're currently facing. You don't need perfect conditions or a complete transformation of your life circumstances. You just need the willingness to respond differently to whatever you encounter. If you're dealing with a difficult relationship, practice patience there. If you're frustrated with slow progress on a goal, practice patience there. If you're impatient with traffic, technology, or daily inconveniences, practice patience there. Every situation that currently triggers impatience is an opportunity to build patience muscle. The daily practice. Consider establishing a daily patience practice. This might involve starting each day with a few minutes of quiet sitting, practicing patience with whatever thoughts or feelings arise. Choosing one daily activity, like commuting, eating, or exercising, to do more slowly and mindfully. Setting a daily intention to respond patiently to at least one situation that would normally trigger frustration. Ending each day by reflecting on moments when you practiced patience and moments when you could have practiced more patience. The key is consistency rather than perfection. Like physical exercise, patience develops through regular practice, not through occasional heroic efforts. Building your support system. Patience is easier to maintain when you're surrounded by people who understand and support your commitment to patient living. This might mean finding mentors or role models who embody patient mastery in areas you want to develop, joining communities or groups focused on slow, sustainable growth rather than quick fixes, sharing your commitment to patient living with friends and family who can support and encourage you, limiting exposure to media, people, and environments that promote impatience and instant gratification, measuring progress patiently. Finally, remember to apply patience to your development of patience itself. Don't expect to become completely patient overnight. Notice small improvements, celebrate gradual progress, and be gentle with yourself when you fall back into old patterns of impatience. Keep a patience journal where you record moments of patient response, insights about patience, and observations about how patience is impacting your life. Over time, you'll see patterns and progress that might not be obvious day to day. Conclusion: The Infinite Game of Mastery. James Cars wrote about two kinds of games: finite games that are played to win, and infinite games that are played to keep playing. Mastery is an infinite game. The goal is not to reach some final destination where you can say, "I have arrived," but to continue growing, learning, and developing throughout your entire life. Patience is what allows us to play the infinite game of mastery with joy rather than frustration. When we understand that growth never ends, we can enjoy the process rather than rushing towards some imaginary finish line. When we accept that mastery is a path rather than a destination, we can appreciate each step of the journey. This shift in perspective, from finite to infinite, from destination to journey, from impatience to patience, transforms everything. Challenges become opportunities, setbacks become learning experiences, ordinary moments become chances to practice presence. Slow progress becomes sustainable progress. The patient path is not always the easiest path, but it is always the most fulfilling path. It leads not just to achievement, but to deep satisfaction, meaningful relationships, lasting impact, and the kind of inner peace that comes from knowing you're exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you need to do, at exactly the right pace. Your journey toward mastery, whether in a skill, a relationship, a career, or life itself, is unique to you. No one else has your combination of talents, challenges, opportunities, and circumstances. No one else can walk your path or determine your pace, but everyone can learn to walk their own path with patience, presence, and deep trust in the process of growth. The seed that becomes the mighty oak doesn't rush its growth. The river that carves the Grand Canyon doesn't hurry its work. The master craftsman who creates works of beauty doesn't cut corners or skip steps. They all understand what we're learning, that the journey is the destination, that the process is the reward, and that patience is not just a virtue, it's the secret to a life well lived. As you continue on your own patient path to mastery, remember that every moment of patience is a moment of wisdom. Every patient choice is an investment in your future self, and every patient day is a step toward the person you're becoming. The path is long, the rewards are great, and the time to begin is now. Walk patiently, trust deeply, and let the compound magic of patient living transform your life from the inside out. This concludes our exploration of patience and mastery. May your path be patient, your progress be steady, and your journey be filled with the deep satisfaction that comes from walking the patient path to true mastery.